Dennis was the youth pastor at Sardis Baptist Church, where I sang in the choir.
I saw Lydia for the first time. It would be back in 1977. And I was attending Sardis Baptist Church.
I had seen him, we had hung out. I was never interested in him. But every mother that had a single daughter was in his face because Dennis could dress.
Lydia was not First Lady material. Lydia was very loud. She came to church oftentimes with raggedy jeans on, but she was pretty, you know, and she had some pretty legs.
And I wasn't paying him no attention because I made more money than him. My mother had taught us to marry up, and I knew he wasn't making what I wanted him to make, but then the voice said, "You gonna marry Dennis." Dennis and I, we had this perfect marriage and family life, and out of the clear blue sky, I get a call about 2 o'clock in the morning that Dennis was arrested. I couldn't believe it, not my husband.
It was on a Monday night in the summer of 1983. I was thinking, how am I going to get out of this? What am I going to do to hide this?
So I called my neighbor next door and asked her to come over and watch the kids. So I went downtown to pick Dennis up.
I didn't want to call Lydia. I think part of that was motivating. Let me get out of this. Go home, and she would never know. But the police called Lydia.
When I walked into that police station, he had his head hung down, and he was in tears. The policeman said he was in a theater, and he solicited a planted male police officer.
It was entrapment, but, you know, I shouldn't have been there.
That didn't make sense to me because he was all over me. And he seemed like he was happy with the sex. I didn't even know what solicited meant until afterwards. I was brokenhearted. I was humiliated. And so I just shut it out.
And then Lydia bailed me out. I expected outrage, but her response was, it's like she dismissed it, like buried it.
I remember one day I go out in the garage and I find a video. And it's a video of men having sex with men. And I am in shock. What is this? Where did this come from? Why is this in my house?
Lydia puts this video in my face. What is this? She's angry too. And so I said, it's a porn video. I like to look at porn. And she said, but you're a preacher. And so I told her how I looked at porn all my life.
Cognitively, there was a connection from when he behaved that way 8 years ago when he was arrested. Obviously, there was a connection, and I was upset.
We argued all day, all night.
I had come home from work. I was nervous because I still didn't have any answers. We retreat for the evening, you know. He sits on this orange chair that's in our bedroom. He said, I'm bisexual.
And I told her everything. My sexuality, the infidelity, the sex with men, all of it.
I let him finish talking. I didn't interrupt him at all. He had been doing the entire marriage. I was ready to collapse.
And I'm thinking, she's gonna divorce me.
He said to me, it's just sex, and I love you, and I want my family, and I believed him. We agreed to do the work for the sake of our marriage and our family. So I focused on my work-life balance. And Dennis promised to stop having sex outside of our relationship. I tried to be better as a wife and as a mother. Every week we would go out, just the two of us, and have quality time together. But Dennis would tell the therapist I didn't give him enough sex. And I said, oh my God, how much sex does he want?
The therapist tells us, do not judge his addiction, because addiction is addiction is addiction. We go to her for about a year. It was at that point that I said to myself, I'm a bisexual man, and to hell with all of this trying to get rid of it.
Then I found out we weren't the only ones in the family keeping a secret. Mikey comes home from school. He's in freshman at Shorter College.
It was on his birthday. Mikey comes in the kitchen. He says, something I want to tell, you and Mom.
And he tells us that he was gay. And I was just shocked.
It was in 2000. I was 19 when I came out the closet to my parents.
I knew he was different from when he was born. But when he announced he was gay, I was devastated. In the summer of 2000, the Meredith family experienced our latest secret when my son, Micah, came out. He just announced it and walked out. Didn't give us time to discuss it or anything.
I said, big deal to me. In my mind, I thought, you don't have to be like me. Don't be like me. Follow your conviction of being gay and just be. But Lydia was not open to it.
I was afraid because I was over the HIV ministry at the church. And I had seen men dying. I had seen boys dying. And I knew that he was at risk. I didn't even think about Dennis and HIV. And that's the strangest thing. I never thought that I could get HIV, but I thought about my baby and HIV.
I hadn't been out of the closet a year, and then I contracted it. I was 20.
I was in Florida, and Dennis calls me, and he tells me that Mike is HIV positive. I took the next plane back to Atlanta, and I was there within a couple of hours. And his dad is crying, I'm crying, his brothers are crying.
He was really scared. I was pretty scared too, but I just felt like in that moment I could tell my brother, we're gonna find a way for this to be okay.
It was a moment of reckoning. My son was living his truth. But for nearly 20 years, Dennis and I had been hiding ours. And now, our kids were having to face the gossip about his double life. The image of our perfect family was cracking.
I started to hear things about my father being promiscuous.
You hear people, they say things like, yeah, your daddy was in the park. I was like, what? What's the park? They be in that bathroom, they be in them bushes. And I'm like, my dad would never go in a park and behind bushes and, stuff like that. So I was shocked about that.
One Sunday, Dennis preached a horrible sermon, and I was sitting next to his mother, and his mother said, now you just look around, whoever he's is right in front of you. The rumor was that Dennis was seeing Lavar, the man he'd begged me to hire as a teacher in the child care center I had been running for a decade. And I called Dennis, and I asked Dennis, was this true? He didn't deny it. He did admit it was true. And I said, how could you do this to me?
And she's very angry because how dare me bring my lover into that school, and that was wrong. That shouldn't have happened.
He had been bringing Lavar in front of my face all of this time, family meals, the church, my house. And he was sleeping with him. I said, I feel like you have hit me with a truck and you just keep running over me with the truck.
I was 27 years old when I met Dennis. He was 53.
I met him November 14, 2005. We were at a place that's called Insurrection, one of them sex places.
I saw this tall, interesting man. I thought that he was some basketball player, only to find out he doesn't even know anything about sports.
So we exchanged numbers. The next day I was at his house. I don't know what it was about him that I just could not let him go. I started seeing him on a regular basis, sneaking around, and that's when it started getting messy between me and her.
Dennis had had multiple affairs before, but each time he told me it was just about sex and that he still loved me. This time was different. I knew he was in love with him because he wasn't in love with me. He didn't have to tell me.
At that point, my priority was more him than her. This relationship with Lavar is the most important relationship to me.
In late 2005, I finally decided I would no longer be the secret keeper. I was going to speak the truth. I said, I can't keep dealing with this drama. I needed to tell the boys what was going on and not try to protect Dennis like my mother protected my daddy. She never told us that daddy was cheating. I ended up doing the same thing, protecting Dennis.
We were in the house, we were upstairs, and, you know, my mom was upset, obviously. You could tell she had been crying. My dad, you know what I'm saying, he was kind of sitting there, he had his legs crossed like this, and he was kind of looking down.
And she said, I want to tell y'all something.
And then my mom kind of comes out and says, yeah, your daddy was messing around with some man. Wait, what? Pause. He did what? With a man? Did I hear that correctly?
I was like, why is she doing this? But, you know, I deserved it. You know, I done my crap.
I felt like my stomach had just dropped to my my feet. And it was just like, what is going on?
My dad's secret ripped our family apart.
In front of the congregation, family, and friends, me and Lydia looked like the perfect couple.
He didn't announce anything to the church when we were separated.
I met Lavar in November 2005. I asked him for us to be exclusive in January. Lavar presents this life for me that is so comforting. And so at that point, he moved into our condo. And we're actually living together.
You know, my dad literally moving on with somebody else, it forced a change. We were just all beaten up by the trauma of it all and the drama of it all.
It felt like he was choosing that new family over the family that had been ride or die all these years.
One Sunday, I decided I'm gonna tell the church who I'm with. Y'all been asking questions, am I dating somebody? Yes, I'm dating Lavar Burkett. Stand up, Lavar.
And I stood up, and that's when everybody could put a face and name together.
I'm like, what the are you doing? It was a crazy, crazy moment.
Some of the people in the church already knew who he was and what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? So like, okay, Pastor, congratulations, you came out. But then there were people that just got up and like walked out.
And when I saw people walking out, I was like, he's ruining, you know, what we built here.
But by now, the congregation is 85% gay. I lost people announcing that Lavar and I were together, but I gained a whole lot of others because then they said, he's really one of us, he's a gay man.